Hey guys, Steven Martinez with The American Dream. I just want to say a big thanks to all our supporters and fans. It's because of you guys that we're able to keep growing. Having said that, please don't forget to follow and subscribe. It means a lot to us. That's what helps us keep growing. And also, I hope you guys enjoy the next episode. Hey guys, welcome back to The American Dream podcast and channel. It's your host, Steven Martinez. I'm here with a very, very special guest, Sami Khaleeq. Thank you so much for coming, brother.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
How was everything? How was the drive here, man?
Oh, good. Well, you know, Houston, people get shocked when you tell them average drives 30 to 40 minutes anywhere.
Yeah, well, from one side to the other side, it's literally like 2 hours.
That too.
No, but let's get right into it, man. So for anyone who doesn't know Sami as a person, how would you kind of explain or sum up, you know, from how you were as a kid, your childhood, to what brought you to now, what you're doing, meeting the president, all these amazing awards, and pretty much all the amazing contributions you've done to Houston, to society in general?
In short, I'll tell you, I'm just a troublemaker. This is what my friends know me as. I'll find a problem and it's time to go solve it. You know, and I kind of get hyper focused on it. I think growing up, I was kind of growing up in STEM. You know, more of a techie nerd, and goal was to go towards. You know, at that time, I was all into aeronautics and go towards space flights and astronaut. But eventually, as I kind of got into it, grew older, you know, I kind of changed my vision a little more from, you know, robotics and aeronautical engineering to more, you know, cybersecurity. At that time, it was kind of picking up, and then at the same time, the new word was kind of becoming popular. You know, running social media agencies, and so cybersecurity and the world of digital media kind of became my prime focus. And then you know, I've spent about good 13, 14 years kind of building both of those farms up, and expanding my personal time more and more towards kind of civic giving, you know, serving on different city commissions, and at the same time just focusing on more of the human trafficking charity elements, you know, that I have.
So you won an award, and the president gave you the award, which I think is really, really cool. So how did that come about with you receiving an award with the president?
I'll tell you, it kind of blindsided me. You know, I wasn't, you know, working or doing all this charity work for that award, but it was a privilege to receive it. You hear about it, you know, on TV, and you never think it's going to be you who gets it. But in total, I had spent, now it's a little more, but I've spent about, they said in a decade, I've spent about 10,000 hours towards human trafficking work that I've done. And then at the same time, it was amazing because I also got a letter from former President Bush, and then Neil Bush, who's the chairman of Points of Light, his younger brother. And so it was awesome, you know, to have my parents in the audience and family there, and friends come out. I think that was more meaningful for the friendships I've built over the years than anything else. I think the charity work that I do, I do it because people are in need, and it's something I want to continue doing. Not necessarily for an award, but I'll tell you, that makes that opens up some doors towards the charity goals that I have, and it did. You know, it created awareness of a sort, and for me, that's fantastic. Because the more awareness I can kind of create towards the cause, the better.
So when you're, I guess, right now to where you are, technology has been a big part of pretty much your backstory, right? Yeah. And then when you were younger, I know we talked off camera with your involvement with NASA. Yeah. For the viewers, explain that a little bit with what you were doing.
Yeah, you know, in high school they had a competition that NASA had come up with. It was at that time they were talking about starting when President Obama was still in office. Funding had gotten initially cut, but then they started kind of having the conversations about going back to the moon. And so they had come up with a global competition on imagining what the future of moon base would look like. And we did this competition in school. It was a group of friends, submitted it, forgot it, and then my principal one day calls me in the office, and I'm thinking, what did I do? and they said, hey, there's somebody from NASA headquarters who's been blowing up our phone. They've been trying to reach you. Wow. Have no clue how to get to you. You left no contact information. And so I get on the phone, and this lady's like, hey, we need to fly you, and you know, in high school you're not really thinking about flying anywhere. We need to fly you and your parents over to DC, and your team won #1 globally on that project. And so I nonchalant pack our bags, show up to DC, and next thing you know, I realized it's Apollo 11's 40th moon landing anniversary. And they did the whole award. Alan Bean was an artist and a moonlander who landed on the moon, and he came and presented the award. Then he invited us to the 40th anniversary, which blew my mind because you had every astronaut alive you can think of at that anniversary.
Awesome.
You had Neil deGrasse, who was the MC, Charles Bolden, and then we had gotten the chance to also go to the White House where they were doing the celebration. So it was something out of reality, and I'll tell you, it's been over a decade, but I still live in that moment.
Yeah.
To being able to see those guys that you only read about in books.
So let me ask you a question. Just kind of thinking about it. I know with like the whole Elon Musk stuff and like the space and moon. Do you think people could actually live in the moon? Is that like an actual viable thing?
I think it's habitable, but there's two things that if you look at what's kind of going on with space they're looking at, they're either using it as a sort of substation to go further out to Mars, or it's a stopping ground, or the other side's kind of talking about using the resources on the moon and some sort of mining to bring those elements back to Earth. I don't know if it's necessarily going to become a place that you're going to habit at.
Yeah.
But I think for us to go back to space and start exploring again, the moon's going to be the first big step. If you think about it, we haven't gone back in forever. And Houston's company at the spaceport Ellington was the first American company to go back after so many years and put a machine that landed on the moon. So I think it's an exciting chapter. And Elon's, I don't agree with everything that guy says or does, but I'll tell you one thing. He was told by some of these astronauts or some of the space legends that he's never going to put a spacecraft in space. And to see, where people he looked up to telling him he can't do it and him doing it, it's quite impressive.
Absolutely.
Quite an impressive feat that he's kind of pulled off.
So kind of going back in, you in high school and then you achieving that, moving forward from high school, where were you at? Did you go to school, university?
Yeah, I went to University of Houston, San Jacinto College, University of Houston.
Go Cougs.
Go Cougs. And I got at San Jacinto College, I had two professors that kind of inspired me to get into computer science more of, from just robotics engineering. Moved to computer science a little bit, started seeing a lot of stuff happening in the world of penetration testing, ethical hacking and stuff, and so I moved myself more to cybersecurity at that stage. That world of being able to get inside a computer, and it was just a whole different world that you kind of live in, kind of attracted me, and so moved to that arena, and then since then never looked back on cybersecurity.
So in cybersecurity, and I guess this is more of a curious question, obviously technology is always changing. Is that something where like every day there's something different? Like you always have to be constantly adapting in the world of cybersecurity? Oh
yeah, you're always 10 steps behind. How fast technology is evolving. I remember at one point when I was studying it, they were saying that everything we're learning the first year of school is going to be almost obsolete by the fourth year.
Yeah, that's all pointless.
How fast it's kind of revolving. So it was all about building the foundation. The biggest lack I think I see nowadays is people don't realize you need to spend a lot of time just studying and keeping up with that tech, and they don't. They just focus too much on, I learned this about a decade ago, and that's all they kind of stick with. And it's necessary with the way the changes are happening and stuff that you pick a subject matter and focus. When I was starting, you could do mobile security, network security, server security, AI security, all at once, right, in one portfolio. Now it's kind of expanded so much that you kind of need to like deep dive on one kind of vertical. It's very similar to marketing. You can just understand the principles, but kind of focus yourself on.
Yeah, there's a science to every specific aspect.
So my focus was more on, then I kind of just started specializing and focusing on digital forensics and more penetration testing, which was how do you take a system, break into it, and then use that knowledge to refine it. both ways. So that to me was something that I started focusing on, and then digital forensics is how I kind of led more into, how do you get in the mind of a criminal? How are you able to think how they think and what they do, and using that digital forensics be able to, build a case to catch these white collar, blue collar criminals in different cases.
And what made you want to focus on the human trafficking side? Was there like a specific reason, or is it just like more of a passion, or were you just like, I think this would go hand on hand with what I'm doing?
I think there wasn't a reason necessarily that kind of pushed me towards it. I was just seeing a lot more of it, and I was seeing certain things happening to my friends, circles that were close by to me, and I said, you know what, why not take what I know and put it also towards some social good, and stopping this. At that time, you weren't hearing a lot about how people were using technology to stop these things. You had very old-fashioned methods of catching traffickers in those days, and so I kind of leveraged. I said, how do you take the technology and become this online vigilante, and take some of these guys down?
Would you say technology in that essence, I guess, and I mean in any case really, would you say like the generic person really has no understanding on how technology works compared to your more advanced person?
Nowadays, I don't think everything is click friendly, right? People don't know how it operates. I did a laugh about this. I did introduction to computer class one time at one of the colleges, and this lady, she just walks in, everybody has their computer on, and she's just hard staring at me. So I said, you need help with something? And she goes, how do you turn this device on? I had no clue what a computer was. How do you turn it on? You see some of that today. People get very flustered and frustrated with things like iPhones or fancy Androids. And there is a piece of public that's still stuck on, you'll see them on flip phones and your regular technology phones. The adaptability is there. I think they're starting to adopt, but the older generation has always had that curve on learning. But now I think COVID being a bad thing at the same time did good for technology, because it made people who weren't adopting to technology have to adopt to a point. Sitting home, you had to learn how to do Zoom, how to use your laptops. You had to learn how to communicate through your phones, on Skype, your FaceTimes, how to do virtual meetings. I think things like those kind of accelerated. Again, you think of the other thing you had to do sitting home was kind of kill time. What do? You start learning doom scrolling on TikTok and Instagram. So a lot of that, I think, helped with the adaptability and people kind of catching on. Before that, you had to force certain people to get on. Even my own dad, I had to kind of get him to, jumping him from a flip phone to an iPhone was almost like telling the store, hey, we're sold out, we no longer have it. And that's how he chose to go with the new technology versus just telling him, hey, you should have a new phone. He didn't want it.
My dad is kind of the same way. He's more traditional in that aspect. He comes from Colombia. So his definition of working is like, hands, labor, stuff like that. And I'm on my computer working, and he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm working. He was like, no, you're not. I'm like, I promise you I'm working. But having said that, how would you say, I guess, technology has transitioned to where, I guess, would you say it's like survival of the fittest? Like either you get it or, you're left behind, especially in business?
It's starting to, right? There was a point where they when the websites were kind of picking up, they would say that if you have a brick and mortar, you have to have a website. Then there was time where they said that if you have a brick and mortar and a website, you have to, be doing SEO. And then you kind of started evolving in this. Now we're in such a big world of consumption that if you're not on social media, you're getting left behind. I'm not saying everybody has to be. The best thing social media does, or digital media has kind of done for people, is you might be making $1 million old-fashioned marketing. Adding that element might help you generate, $2-3 million. And you're seeing, I think, what you're seeing is the consumption has kind of forced the businesses to get their game up. They've realized that they're not just going to get the customers to walk in because you might say, hey, Sammy, go to this barber down the street. Even though you might tell me that, now I might go watch 30 videos of that barber and see if it's still the right fit. So it's no longer just word of mouth, it's also that word of mouth plus what that small business is doing. And sometimes you hesitate, if you don't see anything online. I've had small businesses that I've called and inquired with like 30 people because I'm like, do I go in, or like what's up with this doctor, or what's going to happen? So that it's definitely made the pathway a lot easier for businesses, and just businesses need to take it seriously. I still run into people who are they'll tell you, they're like, oh, it's not for me.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, they're doing dancing videos.
Yeah.
A month later. Grandkids, I've heard that grandkids have gone their grandparents on it, and some of those grandparent executives have then gone back to their marketing and said, hey, why are we not doing this? So I've seen that a lot. But then I've also heard the other side where they're like, oh, I don't do it, my grandkid handles it for me.
How would you describe, I guess, social media in the aspect of balancing it out? As in, when I think of technology, there's two perceptions, I think. I think there's the one where like, oh, you're wasting your time, or you're actually utilizing the technology for your own benefit. How would you describe, or I guess define for someone who's like, have this phone, how can I make actually the most out of it, or this computer?
I always say that it's the era, and you'll see a lot of other guys say this online as well. This is one of the only eras where you can generate a 7-figure or $1 million revenue with two things: a phone and internet, right? Or a phone and Wi-Fi. There has never been time that you can make that kind of money just sitting on your phone. I know guys generating that kind of revenue that have never touched a laptop. Talked about computers and tablets. They're sitting on their phone. They can do everything. They can send out e-blasts. They can do marketing. They can update things online. There has never been that time to do it, and it's what we kind of feed our mind. I've realized that if you're just scrolling junk, you kind of end up in that loop of procrastination and not wanting to do it. It's really become important with all this information coming out nowadays that you feed yourself properly, because people don't realize majority of this business game, digital media game, entrepreneurship game is nothing more than what you're feeding your mind. It was a quote, might not say it properly, but a quote was, you hang out with 5 smart people, you'll be the 6th. You hang out with 5 idiots, you'll be the 6th. It's very, very true in today's generation with what's happening. Hence, you'll notice some people in your circle would just waste their life sitting on their phone where somebody else is just killing it.
So in terms of social media, technology, would you say the algorithm is like a real thing where, let's say I hear what you're saying, I'm watching this, man, this is garbage. Why is my algorithm like this? How can I change the perception of what I'm watching? Why is the social media feeding me this exactly? Is there an actual science behind that?
When you initially start, not really, right? They might be, depending on the platform, they might be taking some data that they have acquired from somewhere else about you. It might be Google that kind of feeds that data of what you've been searching into their system. What have you searched in the past, a few times? If you notice, a very simple algorithm change is with something like Instagram or TikTok. Is if you're sitting on a car page for a few days, or YouTube does that now, sit on you watch about 10, 15, 20 videos on the same topic. Next thing you know, your home feed is nothing but those topics. I was watching something to do in I've been focusing on my pilot license and stuff, and some of the new techniques of flying. And I woke up one day and it's just nothing but planes everywhere, on my feed, on my Instagram, on my YouTube. You can actually, as an individual, you can train that feed, right? If I used to just pick 5 or 6 people and I would just stick with them. I used to have like Gary Vee on one feed. I would have Tony Robbins on one feed. You have Grant Cardone on one feed, and then you kind of start seeing your feed evolve to those positive things. So when people tell me, oh, I'm not getting right targets, it's not true. It's what you've been searching. They're not going to feed you things that are not being consumed by you. And the feed learns. It kind of learns your behavior. It learns what you're doing. All of a sudden, you're seeing, a bunch of junk food and cars and all the crazy stuff. Well, it's probably because that's what you've been looking up. and searching. You always see those funny videos on TikTok where the boyfriend will open up his Instagram and then he throws it and the girlfriend's staring at him. He's like, I don't know why they're giving me random stuff.
Right. You read my mind. I was just about to say how, like with my girlfriend, I'll see a TikTok and it's like, oh, if you go past the 10 posts and there's no women in your posts, like, you know, take you out to dinner or whatnot. Like, here, she'll go through nothing, just straight business, motivational stuff.
It's always hilarious, but it's a mindset game. You know, and it always throws me off because I'll get some of the most random calls like, hey, how do I fix this? I'm like, start watching something positive. You know?
As simple as that, man. Just start resetting the feed, resetting the algorithm so they understand that.
But you know this, Steven, better than I do with All American Dream and what you guys are trying to do is that it's the easiest time to have these virtual mentors. You know, you don't necessarily any longer need, I don't need to physically get to you and force you to be my mentor or convince you. I can just learn by your previous content. It's been the easiest time for us to say, hey, I'm trying to get from goal A to goal B. How do I do it? Well, let me follow the top 5, top 10 guys in this industry, and you become that 11th one. You know, the story you and I were talking about, how you got started on some of these things is very similar on that track. That puts you on the path that you're in today.
100% right. Having said that, technology and like the virtual stuff, do you feel like we're going to be at one point in society where we're just contactless in terms of physical interaction? Like we won't even have this, for example?
I forgot who had done it with the audience. They had a very massive audience, and they said, how many people get pissed off when their phone rings? It was like more than 50% of the room, right? And then there was a whole chunk that gets pissed off that you even text them on top of it. I think we're gonna see some of that, but we're gonna get to an influx where there's gonna be a group of people that will force us to think that you still want that human contact. There's almost no replacement, you know, to that human contact. We are gonna get to a contactless point, but I don't think it's anytime soon. You're always gonna have those you know, group of, you're going to start seeing an offset of multiple communities, right? You have a community that's very tech savvy, it's always, that's kind of grew up on tech and they're okay with it, but then you're going to have this group of people that's going to want to retain that relationship. But I'll tell you what, no matter how much of a sort that you have that contact virtually, nothing beats a good old dinner night, steak night, coffee night, kind of a night. And you need that interaction, you know, to a point. Sure, you live your whole life without chatting with somebody or talking to somebody, but I don't think we're wired that way, you know, and we're made that way. Even some of the new kids growing up in today's generation with nothing but tech still have that element of creating friendships, you know, wanting to connect with people and building that relationship. I say technology enhances, you know, but if we're using technology to disappear, I think that's going to be impossible anytime soon.
It's like kind of like flipping a coin, either can go this way or that way when it comes to technology. I agree. So when technology in the aspect of AI, which I kind of want to dig into too a little bit, I'm a little bit nerdy when it comes to all this. Do you feel like AI, are we just in the beginning of AI?
Oh yeah, you're here at a lot of conferences. I was at, recently I went to South by Southwest conference with some friends who were speaking there, content at scale, and the big thing they'll tell you is out of all the companies in the world, about 8% are experimenting with it. So think about that. You know, they're not even implementing it or using it. They're still kind of getting a way to adopt it. Human learning models and language models have always existed, especially within the realm of cybersecurity world and how you do threat analysis and threat protection. Some form of it has always been there. But what you're kind of seeing now is adaptability on a personal level starting to come out. And you hear two sides of it. AI is not going to necessarily replace the knowledge or you as a person. It'll enhance you, going back to the whole point of technology enhancing you. I think that's what's going to happen with AI. And we're going to see the adaptability go up. You're going to see low-level jobs like administrative jobs and stuff that are slowly starting to get replaced. But you're not going to see the high-level jobs right now, getting replaced. Who was it? I don't know if you saw when the whole uprising that happened at Walmart going to more self-checkout than in person, and then you would see a line on in person like huge. Yeah. Because people don't want to check out by themselves. That things like that tell you the adaptability is going to be there, but is it going to be something you're going to see in the next few years? Probably not. You're going to see it enhance in a big way. Advertising's using AI to enhance in a massive way. You're going to see a lot of other industries. Law industry is going to evolve. Being able to do certain roles as a paralegal is going to change. You're seeing where doctors are starting to use some of their diagnoses, and then they're kind of running those against previous cases, the AI studies, and similar things. It's not going to be, AI is not going to be something you'll see in a high decision-making tool. It's not going to be making those human-level decisions anytime soon. So we're going to hear more and more about it, but it's not going away. I think the assumption is that AI is just going to disappear off one thing. It's very much like when virtual reality was starting, artificial intelligence was starting, AR was starting, augmented reality. But AI, I think, is here to stay. Adaptability is going to start, growing. Industries like creative industries are benefiting off of it, where you were able to do 10 different things, you can do 20. It's enhancing jobs. Just my team members have self-taught themselves, and they've actually made their job even more fun because they're like, I don't like to do this, so I figured out how to get the AI to do things I don't like, so I can focus on what I like. At work.
I have a friend. He's always like, we have a question. And we're like talking. He's like, ChatGPT.
Yeah.
No, it's funny. So with AI, I think it's an interesting topic because a lot of people that aren't aware of certain things, it kind of scares them. So they're kind of like, I don't know how I feel about this. I don't want to be involved. But the reality is that it is going to start incrementing. Having said that, anyone that's like a startup or an entrepreneur, how would you advise them to, I guess, kind of get into it for the first time? How can they utilize AI?
Start just learning. There is, I can name a couple of them, but there's over a dozen free trainings. YouTube is, I always joke, YouTube is like a new futuristic university. You could literally, and they did rank it at one point. I don't know what it is now. It might be number 3 because of ChatGPT. But at one point, YouTube was the second biggest search engine because people would always go on there and do how do I do this? What is this? It's a great way to learn. But Google has a free course. Microsoft has a free course. MIT has a free course online on how to get into AI coding and stuff. Those are great places to just kind of get started as a startup. Now that's more technical, but if you just want to kind of get a better understanding, just hit YouTube, play with it, experiment with it, try doing things with it. The biggest flow that and issue that I'm seeing right now with a lot of the calls I get, they just don't want to try the basic thing. They think they're going to mess it up. They don't want to look at it. But the resources are abundant. You play with it. Claude's a big one. Sora's going to come out. It's going to be very, very interesting for a lot of the creative industries. ChatGPT itself is great. Then Midjourney is fantastic for some of the photography work. Those are at the most basic level. I think we're already at a couple thousand tools in existence at this point. Chatbots have now become, I tell small businesses this is fantastic. If you do a lot of blogging and vlogging and stuff, you can literally get the chatbot to study your whole material. It basically sits there chatting with your customers, and it's trained on your product.
I saw one where apparently now they're doing call centers for AI.
Yeah,
so it's an actual
creepy.
Yeah, it is a little creepy.
Very creepy.
I think actually, having said that, I don't know if you heard of the stories, but apparently there's some people that obviously they use AI for the wrong reasons, but they'll call you and they can mimic your voice.
Yeah.
So they can extort you. Like they could call someone's parent and be like, oh, hey, I need $100. This is me. Yeah. But really, it's not me. And then you call your mom and you're like, that wasn't me.
Yeah, that's happening. We're seeing it a lot in phishing scams with seniors and stuff. And unfortunately, it's easier to kind of convince where your grandson calls and says, oh, I really need like lunch money. And they'll send them money. And there has been cases where these scammers using the voice have been able to empty their seniors' bank accounts. it reminds me of that movie. I don't know if you've seen The Beekeeper.
No, I haven't.
Yeah. Oh, you got to go check it out, man.
I will.
It's about this whole topic of scamming, but it's hilarious on what happens in that case. But it's I think about, when was it? About roughly 10 years ago, there was a company that would say, send us 20 minutes of your voice recording, and we can mimic your voice.
Wow.
Now you can do that in like 2-3 minutes with AI.
That's
You
amazing.
say a couple of sentences, it'll make you say it, it'll record it, reverb it. Next thing you know, they're mimicking your voice. Or they're stealing people's voice from their videos online.
Yeah, I've seen that too,
replicating
like the fake AIs with let's say Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah.
And like it's him talking with his actual voice, but it wasn't his actual dialogue. It's kind of crazy.
There's video editors, and I think this is cool though, what they do. So they're able to, let's say you hire this video editor, he's able to actually take your voice out of all your old videos. He's able to train the AI on all your gestures in the video, how you move, your handshakes and stuff. And then you basically say, hey, here's 10 scripts. He'll basically create you 10 videos that you never shot. You're in the studio, you're talking, and then it's your voice. Next thing you know, you're just pumping out a bunch of content that was not even real.
Little do they know this podcast is fully AI right now.
Yeah, I mean, you're not even here.
We're not even, it's like what that movie Butterfly Effect, that's what it's reminding me of. Or Inception, that's funny.
Things like that I think are cool, but it just blows my mind.
It does. How does someone, I guess, stay secure? You know, how can they protect themselves to make sure, you know, obviously they're using technology, but they can also be safe from technology?
Yeah, I'll always say have password managers for your password nowadays. You know, it's so easy to get your simple passwords stolen, very, very easy. There's this guy on TikTok, and he just shows you how easy it is. He just walks up to people, he's like, what's your name, what's your dog's name, what's your date of birth? And you just kind of try to show how easy it is just to get a password out of someone, because most of the passwords are their date of birth, dog's name / or their name, date of birth, mixture combo. So it's you know, have password managers online to just protect you from getting your passwords out. Have high level passwords. At the same time, keep up with your computer, your phone security and stuff. The most common scams you're seeing are phishing, like clicking this random, like you said, hey man, I found you on this video site of this random video of you, and you're like, oh my god, what was it? You click on it, next thing you know, a bunch of your friends are getting scammed out of it.
Oh wow.
So those phishing scams are very, very common. They're easy manipulative words they use to kind of get you. But the issue that industry is having is now using AI, they can do it to 1,000 people versus one by one on those scams, and usually those become a massive issue. But it's very interesting that people just, if they would just update their basic security levels on their phones and their laptops and any of the technology items, that would just be enough to kind of get them by. You know, I always say on social media, update your privacy settings, you know, constantly. Facebook sometimes sends you a message, or Instagram, and it'll say, hey, can you recheck? We've updated some privacy policies. Can you recheck your security questions? Change your passwords often. You know, I was talking to someone the other day. He's like, man, I've the same password for 10 years.
Yeah.
I was like, what do you mean you had the same password for 10 years? It was kind of, he's like, yeah, man, it's for everything. And I'm like, all right, let's go after this guy. No.
I remember my sister called me maybe like 3 weeks ago, and she was like, hey, like, did you get a loan out or something? Someone's asking me to pay their loan. I'm like, what? And she like sends me a screenshot of the email, the fake email, of course. And I'm like, first off, I never used your email nor your name. Second of all, I didn't. And third of all, they can't even spell my name right. It was like Stephen, like they're missing like a couple. Yeah, I was like, she's like, oh, okay.
Was it the Nigerian prince?
I've had those. The Nigerian
Have you heard the
prince.
story? And I'm still looking into the actual depth. I don't know exactly how far it goes, but they said before computers, the Nigerian prince scam was still there. They would send mailers out, or they would, back in olden times, they would send letters out to these rich kings and lords.
Pigeons.
I don't know about pigeons, but they would send out these formal letters, and then the king's like, oh, it's a so-and-so needs help, and they would send money over. And then with mail, they would be like, hey, I need help. Deposit this much in my bank account, and there's $1 million to your name, or a free land. And people deposit money.
That's more believable too, because there's no source of credibility.
There is no source of credibility.
Yeah.
So apparently that Nigerian scam got viral in the digital realm, but it's been going on for like several hundred years.
Yeah.
Those are some easy manipulation tactics, but that just tells you how easy it is for a lot of these guys in the cyber realm to fool people. Not a good thing. I wouldn't say marketing is considered manipulation, but in a way,
in essence, it can be. I mean, everything is just a concept of what you see with the eyes.
You take ethics out of it, and sure, you can manipulate anybody to do anything with it.
Having said all of this, I guess kind of looking at your trajectory with your high school, your achievements, being involved with NASA, and then taking your knowledge in engineering, robotics engineering, particularly, and then transitioning that into cybersecurity. Now I know moving forward, now you're more into like the city of Houston. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're like in the development side, correct, as well?
Yeah, so I'm on the Planning and Development Commission. So I'm one of the 16 commissioners that serves on that board, and so we're overlooking places that need to be approved, major thoroughfares, to plats that need to be developed, within the city. So I kind of got into civic more than more appointed than elected. It kind of gets me to engage with people, that I get to serve with, and it also gets me to stay in that know-how of how the city operates and the city works. And I'll tell you, it's nothing short of a blessing what that Planning and Development Department deals with on a day-to-day basis.
What's the future of Houston? What does the future of Houston look like the next 5-10 years?
Not from the position perspective, but just stepping out of the position and talking. You're seeing a lot more tech being involved. We're looking at a concept of how Houston can turn into that concept of smart cities. You're seeing a lot of that in like Dubai, UAE, where they're building these very, very futuristic, advanced cities. One of the things I think is cool, they've tried to do something like that in downtown, but eventually it will. There are some cities out there that the whole city is a walkable Wi-Fi. Right?
Really?
You're always connected to Wi-Fi throughout the whole city.
Wow.
Of course, you're going to have people that are going to say, hey, your privacy is at risk, but I always say if you're walking around with a phone that has Bluetooth and Wi-Fi internet, you've already kind of given up part of your privacy. All right. It's now we're in a life or time of our lives that you need to decide how okay are you with how much more privacy you want to give up. Because when you're on social media and all these platforms implementing technology, you've kind of already done that piece. Nothing's stopping the cities from becoming smarter, and in a unique way. Some of the technology I love. I think if the city of Houston can implement a lot of these new smart tech elements, smart Wi-Fi, to implementing a lot of these smart grid systems, I think it's just going to enhance some of the community life and local life.
And also the security as well.
Security too, to a point. But the notion that we need to stay and not evolve and not grow, you're going to see a lot of it change. Your electric cars, not for or against them, but you're seeing a lot of the new buildings coming up, but they have the mindset that number of cars are going to be electric, within that new building or within a neighborhood. The existing infrastructure doesn't necessarily of a building support them converting a bunch of spots into electric cars, but you're seeing the new ones are already kind of thinking, how can they make these buildings a lot smarter? How can they have these neighborhoods be a lot smarter, more engaging, more safe, using tech? And so that the thought process is kind of already reaching out. Some of the upsells on these luxury homes already come with smart homes, right? Your security systems pre-installed, your garages, your lights, your fans are all automated, controlled by your phone. So your phone's the device that kind of runs your whole household. There's one of the smart home systems where using your voice pattern when you walk in a room and you say something, it knows it's you versus me, and it'll set up the room light and the mood lightings according to your preference versus mine. And so you're going to see, so you're calling them living homes, where it's kind of creepy, but you walk in and it's kind of somehow aware. So obviously it's because you have the phone on you or it's your voice pattern. But technology at some point, you're going to see a lot of that just kind of keep evolving. I love it. Less thing I have to do, turn the fan on, turn the light on, turn the AC on. It just knows.
Do you feel like with technology, Because yeah, I'm in the sense too where like I'm always on my phone. But do you feel like, you know, there's a time like especially just us as people, like, hey, you know, just take a break. I know you're involved in technology a lot. Sorry, throughout the day. Do you ever just kind of just take a break? Like, I'm not gonna be on my phone for like at least 30 minutes today. Or do you have any routine where you kind of just?
So I used to be not that way. You know, I would say about a year ago. I was how much was I? I was averaging about 12 hours.
On screen time?
11, 12 hours a day.
Wow.
Screen time. I was just always sticking to it.
Yeah.
I wake up, I'm looking at it. Sleeping, I'm looking at it. There was a point where I was like, the phone would fall on my face and I'll fall asleep. Right? That's like I was crash sleeping on the phone. Then there was a period in the middle of where I was traveling overseas. So I had gone to South Africa.
Beautiful.
Yeah, just beautiful country. The network was horrible. T-Mobile decided to give up on me.
Yeah.
South Africa. Didn't have my phone. Really, barely had it for 2 weeks. Only time we had it was when we would go back to the hotel at night on Wi-Fi. I'll tell you, I loved it. It felt like you took a chunk of me away. The first week was highly stressful.
Withdrawals, you're like,
yeah,
dude.
I was very jittery, constantly checking if there was free Wi-Fi, or can I like do something on the phone. But that second week was just like truly enjoying life. So that kind of changed me a little bit. So I've started to balance, but I have days where I'm just stuck to the phone, but then other days I don't want to look at it. There's a whole science that talks about some of this consumption and that phone has affected people's stress level and, you know, have
and dopamine too.
Dopamine, you kind of start getting the high of that dopamine on the wrong things, and now if you're not doom scrolling, you're just like highly stressed out. But I've always been the guy when I'm on the phone, it's all positive. Right? I'm just like pumping information in my head.
Yeah.
Throughout the day, is it world news? How does that world news kind of affect, you know, the clients that we deal with? What can we do? So I'm always just on a learning mode, anyways, when I'm on my phone or communicating with people. But if I put that parallel to friends I'm with or the staff I'm with, they're not necessarily doing that. I'm going to get in trouble for saying this because she's probably going to watch this. But one of the girls in my office, one of the younger ones, she'll say, "Oh, I have a headache from working on the laptop. I just want to get away from it," and then she'll pull out her phone, and then she's like sitting there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Wait a minute, don't you have a headache?" And she's like, "No, it's from the laptop, not from the phone."
It's funny you say that too, because now there's stuff, because we're so much plugged into our phones and laptops, like those glasses that have blue light, is it?
Yeah, blue light protection. I tried it, it didn't really work on me. I would get headaches with it.
What's the science behind that?
I've never gone into it. You know, I've looked into it. They have the true light filter on the iPhones.
Yeah.
That you can mandatory turn on. Android, I think the newer ones have it, but you can add an app to do it. I've never seen a difference. Taking that blue away has always given me a headache. I mean,
yeah.
But again, I'm going at like on my phone from, I guess I can fall asleep because I'm going nonstop, and I'm like sometimes crash sleeping.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
At night, so it hasn't affected me. But some people use it. You know, it reduces the strain, but that doesn't take away if you're sitting on your laptop and not moving for like 6-7 hours straight. I've had where one of the girls in my office was sitting on there, her back's hurting, not taking a break. She's just going at it on work, and she got locked. You know, her back actually locked up. She couldn't move her arms.
Oh, wow.
And then called one of my chiropractor buddies, and he's like, sometimes when you're straining it that hard, your body just jams on that spot. You just got to kind of massage it and let her take a break. So now we have where all the company stuff that we kind of pass out to teams, all the technology stuff has a mandatory lock up after a certain amount of minutes, and then they have to actually like stand in front of the webcam, and the webcam's staring at them, and they have to stand up and stand and sit a couple of times, and or they have to walk away from the view of the webcam, and then it unlocks.
Yeah, it's take a little 1-2 minute break to where your body's moving and flowing.
Force them. A lot of that's necessary. I feel like it, but you're not only forget feeding your brain positive stuff. Don't forget to feed yourself.
Yeah,
you know,
that's important too. I forget to eat sometimes.
Look, I'm the worst guy to be giving advice on this because my breakfast is like a double bar of Milky Way and Red Bull, but honestly, I'm starting to kind of get into it, and I'm realizing that when I would like slow down or get foggy, a lot of it was just not feeding myself properly. But second was like, you gotta feed yourself. And some people will like go extended periods of work hours or doing things and their body's starving at it. You're not only starving yourself body of resources, but your mind kind of slows down. You kind of get into that situations all the time. But it's very essential as a small business owner. We're kind of operating on high stress. Startups are high stress. Small businesses are very high stress on the owners or the staff to just kind of go. I really think it's important. I mean, we personally in my company, we do forced lunch breaks. We feed all our employees. They're paid. They're paid through the lunches, right? So it's not like they're working in
off the clock.
They're working off the clock and they're stressed about not making the hours, but they still will like make an excuse to, just continue working because they love it. So we've done where we'll like throw them off the computer and we'll force them to go eat, but a lot of times we'll just have daily lunches anyways for all staff. I think it's important for owners to kind of look at that, health aspect. And I know that some of the bigger companies, like Fortune 500 companies, reward you. You wear like the watch, and they can see you have to do like number of steps in every month, and you have to do a number of things. And if you do it, you get like reward catalogs. A buddy of mine was telling me, he's like, "Oh man, I saved up all these points. I'm getting a free treadmill from my company." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool.
That's pretty cool.
That is really cool."
Yeah.
And then you get you also get like discounts on your health insurance if you show that you're doing a number of things every 6 months. I think that's important.
Absolutely.
Kind of get people in this technology realm to get away a little bit. But those, it's all fun and games till you just brain fog hits and you shut out.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%. I think it's not only what you feed your mind, but also what you feed your body to really be at that optimal peak performance state. Now, kind of just moving forward, where do you see yourself in the next 15, 20 years? What's your plan?
Yeah, so honestly, I was having this conversation yesterday. Goals really to get the companies to just sustain at a point. I have a really good operations team that I'm kind of slowly building up. One thing that I had learned very, very early on was how you gotta get away from saying nobody can do it as good as you and start creating your replacements. And I've been slowly working towards bringing in team members. I've had certain team members I've actually had since I started the company 13 years ago. They never left.
Wow.
And so they've kind of gone in that position where I can comfortably go away and it's business as usual at the office. And so goal is to kind of spend next 5-6 years just optimizing it and making it work, and then I want to focus more time towards my giving back, charity, and spend a lot more time towards a lot of these awareness campaigns that I do towards human trafficking. That's my lifelong goal. But I learned early on that you can't do that unless you can feed yourself. You got to be able to feed yourself to do charity.
That's 100% true.
Or the worst that can happen is you're going to burn out, crash your business down, and now you have no money, and now you can't do what you wanted to do on the charity side. But that's what I've kind of focused on. I've loved giving back. I'm speaking at a summit at UFH actually this weekend in Sugar Land, and that's another one of my focuses. How do I take a lot of these young professionals? I personally, when I was starting, cybersecurity had picked up, but people in my circle weren't in the arena that I wanted to go into cybersecurity. Digital marketing was so new, people thought it was still door-to-door sales. Or the question when you said digital marketing was, what do you sell? Oh, well, I help with marketing, strategies and advertising. They didn't understand the concept. So it was about 5 o'clock, I would fall on my face, get back up next day, 7 a.m., then 5 o'clock, fall on my face. That's how I learned. It was each day you had to realize not to give up. And the next day you would get up and do it all over again to fall on your face again. And so I've kind of been leveraging that time and then helping these kids get kind of unstuck, the young professionals and students fresh coming out of college. Like, how do they not get stuck, and how do they not go through the issues that I went through? That's my long-term goal, is sometimes just that one push is enough. And I've been blessed, you know, it's a phenomenal thing if people out there try just helping others, because you can live multiple lives through eyes of others.
I agree.
And I've wanted to be in certain industries. I know I'm never going to go that route, but if I can help this person excel, heck man, more to them.
Absolutely. So for anyone watching, what would be your, I guess, kind of your closing statement, something that you really want to project to the audience, something that you want to encourage to say?
You know, don't give up. You just can't to get rid of that word, right? Give up is something you shouldn't do at all. Now, I'm not saying if you're nose diving head first and you don't keep going down and put the brakes on, but I've always said focus on passion. The biggest issue that I see now is we're too focused on chasing the money versus chasing success. I've always felt like if you can, in today's time, if you can chase success and just not look back and give up and keep going forward, the money's going to follow you. You know, that is the beauty of, and we're sitting on a podcast called The Dream. Yeah. You know, the beauty of American Dream is that you're going to find it. You just got to keep looking for it and keep going forward. And the other thing I would just say is hyper focus and just put guards on and shoot straight. That's the difference between you clubbing with your friends versus you standing with your friends at a bank, you know, depositing those checks.
I like that.
In the morning. It's huge.
Like
you can party your whole life.
Yeah.
You know, with that money that you're gonna have, but the time to build yourself is in your 20s and 30s. You build yourself up, and you just kind of cruise the rest of your life. That's just for the younger folks. Even for anybody wanting to start at any other age, same advice. You know, you just go for it and don't look back. How many entrepreneurs do we hear that started in their 50s, 60s? Well, you're sitting in. A lot of the guys that we're kind of looking up right now at and talking about, they're in their like late 50s and early 60s.
100%.
That we're looking up to. You don't hear about a 20-year-old walking around billionaire.
Very small, small margin.
Very small, right?
Yeah.
Maybe if in their pyramid scheme, but I don't know.
Yeah. No, the Prince of Nigeria.
That'd be my advice, man.
I love it, brother. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. I think it's awesome what you're doing to the community of Houston, what you're doing to fight human trafficking. You're a successful entrepreneur, and I really admire your words of wisdom and everything that you have to say to not just myself, but also to the viewers. So,
no, appreciate it.
Again, man, I really do appreciate it. And guys, thank you so much for tuning in to the American Dream podcast. I'll see you guys in the next one.